Welcome back to another what I watched the last month video, and this is for the month of August. This month I did watch a lot of newer films, but I also didn't watch as many films as I normally would because I spent the majority of the month watching Breaking Bad all over again for the third time. And yeah, I'll definitely get into that, but please comment down below and let me know, what did you watch in the month of August? What are you looking forward to watching in September? And let me know if we have anything in common, or our opinions are similar or completely the opposite about some of these films. I did want to start off with Nope because we finally watched it in theaters. Nope is a 2022 neo-western science fiction horror thriller by Jordan Peele, who also is the director for Get Out and Us. I personally loved both Get Out and Us, so I did go into this with some high hopes, but I also knew from what I heard from other people that this is not his best film. And I agree, it's not. But it's not bad. I did enjoy it, I'll say that. But it's just, it doesn't compare to Get Out and Us. The movie's about two siblings running a horse ranch in California when they discover something sinister in the skies above. Well, basically aliens. And I think most people know that going into it. It's kind of known now. I'm not spoiling anything. I heard that Jordan Peele was trying to make a very Steven Spielberg inspired film when he made this one, and I totally see what he was trying to do with it, and I did get the Spielberg vibes. I think this film is very beautiful, cinematic. It's definitely a slow burn, and I have to say Keke Palmer is, to me, like the best character in the whole movie. She really surprised me. I thought she was so much fun to watch, and I hope to see her more now in upcoming films in the future because I'm sure that she's gonna end up blowing up. Nope has an overall rating of 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I feel like that's a pretty good, I feel like that's a pretty good rating. Like, I would give it a B, you know, that's basically how I felt. Again, it is a slow burn, and I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely a moment where I was a little bored. It's a little too slow sometimes, and not like a ton was happening, you know? Compared to Get Out and Us, where so much is happening, you have to like be patient with this film. But I will say I loved the ending. I thought the ending was really fun. The last quarter of the film made the whole journey worth it. I will say it's not very horror, which I've heard people mention that there's not a lot of horror to it. It's more sci-fi thriller, if anything. There's definitely suspense and mystery involved in it, and there are some really horrific scenes, or terrifying scenes I should say, but I wouldn't call it a horror. I still overall thought it's a film worth watching, but I just think that everyone had such high expectations and high demands. Considering that the last two films were so good, I know people were expecting so much, but I still have a lot of faith in Jordan Peele, and I will always probably watch his films. I definitely think seeing it in theaters is the way to go if you can, but I look forward to renting it and watching it again and kind of like, you know, seeing it again from a different lens. So I feel like I've been talking about Better Call Saul like in every video I've made lately, and this is probably the last time I'll be talking about Better Call Saul because it's officially over. The finale happened in August, and I definitely was sad for it to be over because Better Call Saul surprised me so much. It was one of those shows that took me 3 times to get into. I kept trying to get into the show and I couldn't do it, and then finally after the 3rd try, fell in love with the show. If you haven't given Better Call Saul a chance, just know that the first season or 2 are just a little they're just not as exciting as it's gonna get. It's gonna get good, and you just kind of have to go and trust the process. Just know that it'll be worth it, okay? You need to first get into the characters. You need to see the characters develop. You need to go through the phase of the first 2 seasons to really appreciate the last few seasons. The season finale was one of those things where at first I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and it kind of took me by surprise, and then thinking back, once I like sat on it, I realized it was the best way they could have ended it. So I approve of the ending. I think Better Call Saul is one of the best shows you've ever watched. I think it does an amazing job considering that it is a spin-off series of Breaking Bad, which is, to my personal opinion, the best show ever. What I respect about Better Call Saul is that it does not rely on Breaking Bad to be good. It completely stands on its own. Yes, of course, if you're a Breaking Bad fan, you will appreciate Better Call Saul more because you have more of a connection to the characters, but there are some characters that are not part of Breaking Bad that are part of Better Call Saul, like Kim Wexler, that are just fantastic, like amazing characters that I'm so glad I got to experience. I think Kim Wexler and Jamie McGill together are like one of the best like duos or couples I've ever seen in a show, outside of course of Jesse and Walt from Breaking Bad. If you're interested in watching Better Call Saul, the first, I believe, 5 seasons are on Netflix, and then you have to get AMC Plus to watch season 6. I don't know why it's like that. I need you to understand that it's worth it. Now, speaking of Breaking Bad, we binge watched all of Breaking Bad from the beginning all the way through in a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks, and it was so worth it. This was my 3rd time watching Breaking Bad all over again, and I still stand by the fact that I think it's the best show I've ever seen. It's just one of those shows that starts off and it's like going already. It doesn't take a long time to start, but it gives you breaks throughout every episode, but it's always going. And it's good all the way to the end. It's really hard for a show that I love to end well, and Breaking Bad to me has one of the best endings. It's the only show I've ever experienced where there wasn't a dull moment. It's just such a good show. There's 5 seasons, they're all on Netflix. It started in 2008, and the director is Vince Gilligan. I personally think Vince Gilligan is a genius because he created Breaking Bad, he created Better Call Saul. He even threw us a little extra bonus with El Camino, which I'm gonna mention in a second. Walter White is my favorite, like, anti-hero or whatever you want to call him. Bad guy, good guy, bad guy that you can't help but love kind of character in any show or movie or anything I've ever seen. Like, Walter White or Heisenberg, whatever you want to call him, is the best. To me, he's the best character ever written. Breaking Bad just has so many good characters. There's Hank, there's Gus, Saul Goodman, of course, Better Call Saul, Mike, Hector Salamanca. I mean, there's so many good characters, and I've been watching on YouTube all these like character analysis videos, and like I've been just watching people on YouTube talk about Breaking Bad because I can't get enough of it, and I highly anticipate watching the season all over again in the future. I'm sure I will go through many viewings of Breaking Bad periodically throughout my life, and I think it'll be fun to every once in a while just kind of go through a whole loop, starting off with Better Call Saul, then going into Breaking Bad, and then going into El Camino, which is the next thing I wanted to mention. El Camino came out in 2019. It's on Netflix, and it's basically what happens to Jesse after the ending of Breaking Bad. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not anything as good or close to as good as Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Mind you, it's a movie, it's not a show, and it's just a little nice bonus material, if you want to call it, but it's for the fans. And if you're a fan, at that point you're so invested that you're willing to go ahead and watch El Camino. Just want to watch Jesse Pinkman just do some more stuff, you know? I'm gonna try to stop talking about Breaking Bad now, but it's just, I love it so much. Now, going from one show that I consider to be the best show of all time into another show that I also consider to be the best show of all time, it gets second place because the ending is horrible: Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon just came out on HBO Max. It is a new show that is all about the Targaryens. And honestly, it looks promising so far, but this did inspire us to go ahead and start watching Game of Thrones from the beginning. We watched the ending of Game of Thrones together, but we have never seen like the beginning of Game of Thrones together. So we kind of just started all over again, and we're just got through season 1 and we're back on this journey. Unfortunately, now we know that the last season sucks, but I think the ride is worth it because it really was one of the best shows I've ever seen, if it wasn't for the last season sucking so much. All 8 seasons of Game of Thrones are on HBO Max if you're curious to get into Game of Thrones this late into life, which is fine. There's no better time than the present. Let me tell you, Game of Thrones is just like Better Call Saul for me. It took me 3 tries to get into Game of Thrones. Every time I tried to watch a show, my brain just like gave out. I couldn't pay attention, I couldn't listen. Too many characters, and I don't know, I just couldn't do it. Once I finally got through the first episode, it just got so good that I'm so glad I toughed it out through the first episode, and took 3 tries, but I made it. Okay, now going into some movies. I did watch Black Phone, finally. I believe we watched it for free on Peacock, if I'm not mistaken. We never got around to watching it in theaters, but I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it in theaters because I don't think it's a theater-worthy movie, to my opinion. After being abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement, a 13-year-old boy starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. The grabber character, which is the serial killer, is Ethan Hawke. I honestly felt like they were just copying the idea of the Joker or Pennywise from It. Like, I felt like they were just trying to like create something like that and then turn it into a little bit more of like a real life scenario, like a little bit more realistic. And I personally didn't find him that scary or that interesting or that well, I don't know, I didn't think he was like that worthy of a character to ever continue to make any more movies about this, so I hope they don't bother with making the Grabber series or something. Overall, I just really wasn't that impressed by the film. I really didn't think there was a lot of horror involved, and I didn't love the whole phone call aspect to it. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but it is known that the black phone is about a phone that the kid uses to talk to the previous victims of the Grabber. And that whole part of it just felt so cheesy and kind of like took me away from the story and from the reality or the horror of the moment, and kind of just made it seem corny and silly to me. It just kind of made it feel more like fairy tale like, and I think it would have been better if there was, I don't know, they could have done it some other way. It kind of is a sad story. I was hoping for it to be a little bit more of like a thriller or a horror, but in the end I felt like it was kind of sad. I don't know, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I always am happy to see new movies and I love an original concept and all that, but I just Next up we have Orphan First Kill. This is a 2022 horror thriller that just came out on Paramount Plus. Isabel Fuhrman stars as Esther again, and Julia Stiles stars as the mother character. This film is a prequel to the original film, The Orphan, that came out in 2009. Esther escapes from a psychiatric facility and travels to America impersonating a missing daughter of a wealthy family. I think the only thing I can complain about is that this film is a prequel, right? She's supposed to be younger. She's like a lot older now. And it's kind of obvious that she is not a kid anymore. Just getting past the whole aspect of her clearly looking a lot older and trying to remember that this is a prequel at the end of the day. But if you just separate the fact of that, I actually thought this movie was a lot of fun. I was kind of expecting a similar story or format to The Orphan, and I liked that this film kind of took it in a different direction, and I loved where it went with it, and I thought it actually took me by surprise. I also love that it felt short. I haven't seen a film in a long time where when the ending comes, I'm like, that's it. I have felt like all films are too long. And this film actually felt short and sweet. It's actually an hour and 40 minutes, but for some reason I felt like it flew by, which I think is a good sign. Next up we have Look Both Ways. This is a 2022 Netflix romantic comedy that just came out this month, starring Lily Reinhart. It's about a girl who goes in between two parallel realities, one where she gets pregnant and stays in her hometown, and another where she moves to LA to pursue her dream career. So I literally just watched this the other night. It just came out. And I was curious when I saw something about parallel realities. I was just like, what? It shows the girl going through two different life paths. So one where she gets pregnant and she goes one direction, and then you see on the other hand what would have happened if she didn't get pregnant. And it's not like the girl, I for a second thought that the character is aware of the parallel realities. It's not like that. It's more like as an audience member, you're watching this girl experience life two different ways depending on one decision she would have made differently. And I liked the aspect of that. I thought that was unique. I appreciated the concept of that style. But overall, it was a very simple film, kind of basic and forgettable when it came to the actual story of the romance, and you know, the actual plot is whatever. I did just appreciate the whole parallel realities, I guess, but you know, it's okay, it's fine. The next film I'm excited to talk about because I do think this is one of the best films I saw this month outside of Nope, and it's called Not Okay. It's a 2022 Hulu dark comedy drama that stars Zoe Dutch, who is desperately wanting to be famous and loved on the internet. So she fakes an influencer trip to Paris. She mistakenly gains fame as a survivor of a tragedy. This is basically a film about a girl who lies and then has to build upon her lies over and over till it gets out of hand. It's one of those. She fakes this trip to Paris and she pretends that she's in Paris right when something horrific happens in Paris, and then it makes it seem like she came out as a survivor, of a tragedy. She gets famous for having a hashtag that she starts called I am not okay, and everybody's loving her. And then of course there's so many lies to her story that it starts to like spiral. And I think this is such a good film. It's just one of those films that feels very relevant. It's all about social media, influencers, cancel culture, using your platform and your voice for good or bad. And I liked it a lot, and I think it's worth a watch. Next up, we have a horror film, Incantation. This is a 2022 Taiwanese supernatural horror that's on Netflix, and it's a found footage style horror. 6 years ago, Lee Ronan is cursed after breaking a religious taboo and now must protect her daughter from the consequences of her actions. This film is tricky to talk about because there are some scenes in this film that were truly so scary. I thought they did so good in a lot of ways. And you know what? I actually really thought it starts off really strong, and I was here for it. I like found footage style movies, and I was just looking forward to seeing where they were gonna go with it. And somewhere along the way, I just got really, I don't want to say bored, because a lot does happen, but I like didn't care anymore, if that makes sense. I feel like it just loses steam as it goes, and it felt like it was never gonna end, like one of those movies that just keeps going. And I was just kind of like, all right, like let's wrap it up. Like I don't know, I'm kind of over it. I don't know how to explain why, but I just felt like I just lost interest in it. It does go back and forth between the past and the present a lot, and I think when things like that happen, it kind of takes me away from the actual story of the here and the now. Again, it does have some really good scenes, and that's the part that sucks. I do think there were a lot of worthy aspects to this film, and then at the same time, I don't want to recommend it because at the end I was just over it. So kind of a shame, I guess. I felt like it could have been better done had it been shorter and maybe kept it more in the present and not in the past. I don't know. If you watch Incantation, let me know what you thought, because I felt like I just didn't care at the end. Next up, we have They Them. This is a 2022 Peacock slasher film featuring Kevin Bacon. A group of teenagers at an LGBTQ+ conversion camp endures unsettling psychological techniques while being stalked by a mysterious masked killer. Okay, so this is a film that was trying to be very clever with the title and everything, and also was trying to just be like a campy slasher film at the same time, like an homage to sleepaway camp and stuff like that. They were definitely trying to do something with this film, and I felt like it just fell flat. It has a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that sounds about right. It deserves about a 40% if I'm being nice. It doesn't have enough slasher scenes to be considered to me a slasher film. The slashing part was like barely in there. I kept waiting for more, and the film just kind of doesn't deliver. And I think you shouldn't call yourself a slasher film if you're gonna have like 4 slashing moments. Like, it needs more. And I think the best part of the film is putting the queer and trans actors in a movie and giving them the opportunity to, you know, take lead, because they were obviously the best part of this whole film. But overall, it just wasn't tense enough, it wasn't scary enough, I didn't take it seriously enough, and at the end, I thought the person, once you find out who the slasher is, you're like, okay, whatever, like, it just doesn't, It just felt overall just a little too generic, and the ending just kind of sucked. The climax just was not very climaxy. Next up, we have Jurassic World Dominion. This is a 2002 action sci-fi that's currently free on Peacock or is available to rent on Redbox. And all I can say is not even Chris Pratt's beautiful face could make me love this film. To be fair, I don't remember too much about the last Jurassic World film. When I was watching this one, I was kind of like, did I even watch the last Jurassic World film? And if I did, I don't remember anything about the details. So, you know, I don't know if that was part of the reason why I wasn't like super invested in this one. They did decide to include Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern and Sam Neill from the original Jurassic Park films, and as cool as that sounds, and as much as I did appreciate that, it was also so cheesy. Like they did so many cheesy things where they tried to replicate certain scenes from Jurassic Park in this film that it felt so like over the top with it, where it was like, all right, we get it, you're repeating the same scenes and it's not original, and it feels unnecessary. This entire film feels unnecessary, you know, because you're just repeating the same film basically. I don't know. You're just taking the new actors and putting them with the old actors and calling that a film. That's what it felt like. I saw that it has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, so, you know, I guess I'm not the only one who felt that way. I felt like the actual dinosaur encounters were just not that exciting, and I felt like the dinosaur aspect of it is like, I don't know, it just doesn't hit the way that the Jurassic Park series did. And also, this is one of those films that felt like it would never end. I just was like, oh, it's not over yet, like it's still going. Next up, we have The Omen. And this is the 1976 horror that is currently on HBO Max, and I am so ready for Halloween. This film just got me into the spirit, and I was like, this is what I needed to get excited. By the way, I have a video of 31 Halloween movie recommendations that I'll link up above, and if you are trying to get into the Halloween spirit and you're looking for film ideas, highly recommend checking that out because spooky season is coming and I'm about to start watching a bunch of Halloween and horror films soon enough. We decided to go ahead and watch the original Omen because had never seen the 1976 version. I've only seen the 2006 one with Julia Stiles. And obviously Julia Stiles being in the new Orphan movie kind of inspired me to want to watch The Omen. But then when I was about to watch the 2006 one, I decided why not watch the actual original classic because I've never seen it. And I'm not gonna lie, this might be controversial because I know that the 1976 is a classic, but I think I preferred the 2006 one. I'm sorry, I know that's like probably so offensive to so many people, but it's just the kills and I don't know, it's just everything about horror films in the 70s are just not my favorite. I like the more realistic look to The Omen in 2006. I actually am a fan of the early 2000s horror films, so maybe that's also a part of it. And I remember watching that film when I was like, you know, a teenager, and to me it was terrifying. So watching The Omen now as an adult and seeing the 1976 version, I felt like it was not scary at all, so yeah. Okay, last we got The Nice Guys. This film just came out on Netflix. It's a 2016 action comedy that stars Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. I thought this was the perfect way to end this video because it is such a fun film. The dynamic between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe is just a lot of fun to watch. It's set in the 1970s Los Angeles. A mismatched pair of private eyes investigate a missing girl and the mysterious death of a porn star. It's silly, it's funny, it's a good time. There's literally nothing I can complain about with that film. It is just worth a watch if you haven't checked it out. But anyways, that's everything I saw in August. Not a ton compared to usual, but like I said, I was too busy watching Breaking Bad and now Game of Thrones. And I'll be watching Game of Thrones this month as well. So hopefully I have time to watch movies. We're currently in season 2. And let's see when we complete our journey. I am looking forward to seeing the next episode of House of Dragon and see where that goes. Also, Only Murders in the Building ended the season finale. I'm not sure if they're gonna go on with another season, but I think they are. It seems that way at least. So it seems like I get to look forward to that. Also, Love is Blind After the Altar is coming out this month, I believe September 16, and I'm looking forward to that. If you are a Love is Blind fan, then let me know. Let me know what you're looking forward to for the rest of September and even October, what movies are coming out that you're looking forward to, and toodaloo.